Have you ever wondered why the easiest person to deceive is yourself? Because here's the strange truth. Most of the lies we believe aren't forced on us. We choose them, we defend them, we protect them, even when they're hurting us. And the most unsettling part, your brain thinks it's doing the right thing. Today, we're going inside the hidden psychology of self-deception. The real reason we cling to comfortable falsehoods, ignore inconvenient truths, and sometimes rewrite our own memories just to survive. Let's begin. Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, "It's not that bad," or "I can stop whenever I want"? Maybe, "They didn't mean it that way," or the classic, "I'm fine." These aren't just sentences, they're psychological shields. Our minds have a built-in instinct: avoid pain, chase stability. And sometimes the truth threatens both. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning. The idea that we don't form beliefs based on facts, we form them based on what makes us feel safer, more in control, or less afraid. It's not weakness, it's survival. A breakup hurts less if you convince yourself you didn't really care. A toxic habit feels manageable if you say, "I work better under pressure." These lies are stitched together by the brain as emotional armor, thin enough to tear, but strong enough to get us through the moment. Here's where it gets unsettling. Your brain doesn't record reality like a camera. It interprets it, filters it, and reshapes it into a story that feels internally consistent. Think about memory. Every time you remember something, you're not replaying a stored video file. You are reconstructing the memory from fragments. This means your recollection isn't pure fact. It's part truth, part expectation, part emotion. So what does this mean? You don't just lie to yourself with words. You lie to yourself with your memories. You soften painful moments. You rewrite your role in an argument. You gloss over warning signs that were obvious in hindsight. We do this because the brain loves a story where you're the hero, or at least not the villain. And if inconvenient details threaten that narrative, your mind quietly sweeps them under the rug. It's not malicious, it's maintenance. Let's go deeper, into something we all experience but rarely admit: denial. Denial isn't ignorance, it's protection. Your mind steps between you and a reality you're not ready to face.
If you've ever avoided checking your bank account or pretended not to see your relationship falling apart, you weren't being irresponsible, you were being human. We think denial is delusion, but it's actually a coping mechanism. It buys us time to process, to grieve, to prepare for the truth. But here's the danger. The longer you stay in denial, the more believable the lie becomes. The brain adapts, rehearses, and refines the story until one day you're not avoiding the truth anymore. You genuinely don't see it. That's the terrifying power of self-deception. It turns emotional blind spots into entire worlds we live inside. And sometimes, the lies come from our deep need to belong. Humans are wired for connection. To fit in, we adopt. We shrink ourselves. And quietly, we start lying about who we are. I'm not bothered. I don't care what they think. I'm over it. But inside, we care deeply. We're not lying to others. We're lying to ourselves, trying to pretend we're bulletproof. Because vulnerability feels risky, and admitting we're hurt feels like giving someone else power over us. There's one more layer to this: our brain's obsession with control. Losing control over a job, a relationship, our emotions threatens our entire sense of identity. So when life gets chaotic, we cling to stories that make us feel like we still have a grip. It's fine. I can handle it. It's temporary. These are psychological anchors. And the more unpredictable life becomes, the tighter we hold on. Because when the world feels uncertain, a comforting lie feels more stable than a painful truth. And stability wins every time. So far, we've explored the mechanics, how we reshape memories, soften pain, and rewrite reality to protect ourselves. But believing our own lies doesn't just hide the truth. It shapes our identity. It determines the choices we make, the risks we avoid, and the opportunities we never see. And the most dangerous part, sometimes the lie becomes so familiar, so comfortable, so woven into our self-image that we can't tell where the lie ends and we begin. In part 2, we're going to explore why self-deception feels good when it turns toxic and how to spot the subtle lies you're still telling yourself today. Take a breath. Now is where everything clicks.
Let's begin with something surprising. Your brain rewards you for believing your own lies. Literally. When you adopt a belief, true or not, that reduces stress or eases shame, your brain releases a small rush of dopamine, a sense of relief, a feeling of internal safety. This is why self-deception is so addictive. If telling yourself, "I'm okay," keeps you from feeling overwhelmed, your brain will encourage you to say it again. If telling yourself, "I don't need help," preserves your pride, your brain will reinforce it. And if telling yourself, "It's not my fault," protects you from guilt, your brain rewards that too. This reward loop becomes a psychological echo chamber, comforting, familiar, and highly convincing. The lie feels good, and anything that feels good is harder to let go of. But here's where the story shifts. A lie that once protected you eventually becomes a cage. Self-deception starts as a shield, a way to cope, to survive. But if left unchallenged, it morphs into self-sabotage. Think about it. If you tell yourself you work best under pressure, you may never build healthier habits. If you tell yourself you don't deserve better, you may stay in situations that drain you. The protective lie becomes the reason you stay stuck. Your brain may be comfortable, but your life slowly contracts. And by the time you notice, you're not just believing the lie, you're living it.
When a lie is repeated long enough, it stops sounding like a story and starts sounding like identity. I'm the strong one. I don't need anyone. I'm broken. I'm unlovable. These phrases act like invisible scripts, guiding how you behave, what you fear, and what you believe you're capable of. And the moment a lie becomes identity, questioning it feels dangerous, almost like you're betraying who you are. But you are not locked into the story your younger self told to survive. There comes a moment in every person's life, sometimes small, sometimes cataclysmic, when the lie and the truth collide. This break often happens when the consequences become impossible to ignore. The job loss, the health scare, or when a friend we trust reflects reality back to us, saying, "You're not okay, something's wrong." These moments are uncomfortable. They strip away the emotional padding, but they're also powerful because once a lie cracks, even a little, light gets in. So how do you tell if you're living inside a lie? You might notice you justify behavior instead of examining it. You feel defensive even when no one is attacking you. You keep saying, "I'm fine," while your body says otherwise. Or you experience déjà vu problems, repeating old patterns with new people. If this resonates, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. Self-deception isn't a flaw, it's a mechanism, and you can learn how to work with it.
Breaking free happens in quiet, courageous steps. Start by naming the discomfort. Ask yourself, what truth scares me right now? The brain can't defend a lie you've already noticed. Then compare the story to the evidence. What actually happened? What facts contradict the story you've been telling yourself? And finally, rewrite the narrative. Not with perfection, with clarity. Replace "I always mess up" with "I'm learning from the mistakes I've made." Replace "I don't need anyone" with "I'm allowed to need support." Small shifts can reroute an entire life. The truth isn't always comfortable, but it does something a lie never can. It sets you free. Free from stories that kept you small, identities you outgrew, and the emotional prisons you didn't realize you were living in. The psychology of self-deception isn't a tale of weakness. It's a tale of survival. You believed the lies you needed at the time, but you're not who you were then. You've grown. And now you're strong enough to tell yourself the truth. Not the truth that wounds, but the truth that restores. So here's the question to leave you with. If you stopped believing the lies you tell yourself, who could you become?
Oh boy. Let's take one more moment with that question. If you stopped believing the lies you tell yourself, who could you become? Just think about it. Somewhere beneath the doubt, the excuses, the old stories, there's a version of you that's clearer, braver, and more honest than you realize. And every time you choose truth over comfort, you take one small step toward that version of yourself. If today's video opened something in you, or made you rethink the stories you've been carrying, I'm really glad you were here. Feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. You never know who might need to hear your truth. And if you'd like more videos that dig into the psychology of everyday life, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and remember, the story you choose to believe can change everything.